Hi. Oh, but that scrolling the banner looks really big. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to wait for a minute or so. This guy came on a bit early. I had a request to stop the scrolling banner because it was giving someone a headache, but it's really big like this. Let me see. Maybe I won't keep it up the whole time. If you want to weigh in on that, feel free. Okay. All right, so I'm going to get started. Here's what I want to say. First of all, this is Phoenix Unleashed. I am your host, Schiffer Hendry, and we are talking about the reinvention of self. We are talking about the birth of a new world. We are talking about human being 2.0. We are talking about the metamorphosis of a caterpillar into a butterfly. We are talking about the burning down of the old paradigms, not the burning down of the world. No, no, no. That could have happened, but it's not. There are many apocalyptic scenarios about how this transition is going to happen. And I think we've missed most of them, at least in some ways. Anyway, but the burning down of the old, the burning down of the walls of illusion, the burning down of the limitations that cause the human condition, the burning down even in a non-physical way, in a metaphysical way, of the structures and the paradigms and the institutions that have caused so much suffering and pain for humanity. That's happening. That's happening, and it's going to continue. So that said, we're in a day that is on the solar calendar, very interesting, as I said in the title. Bring that up again. So this particular day is, as you all know, 0222 2022. 0222 2022. On the previous prayer convoy call that I was on a half an hour ago, somebody pointed out at the exact moment that it was 222 0222 2022. So I'm sure that there's an incredible significance to that. And I actually did my last Geula Summit on 0202 2020. So I think there's definitely something here. I don't know what it is, but I will say that we're in a very incredible time in general. On the lunar calendar, which is the month of Adar, but this year it's 2 months of Adar. Why? Because the lunar and the solar represent two different paradigms in the world. They represent two different ways of counting. And specifically, you could say that the solar calendar in many ways corresponds to the kind of stage on which the cosmic play, the divine play, is taking place. And the lunar calendar represents a superimposition into that playing field of divine light, of the divine agenda. So we have human agendas and we have the divine agendas, and then we have people. That's what we all are. We're players in the game, in the cosmic game. And which agendas are we being run by? That's really how the game is played. Like, it starts out with the humans being run, the pieces, the players being run by human agendas. And most of those human agendas are unfortunately dark. There's a certain self-selective mechanism among people who get into politics and leaderships. I'm not saying it's across the board. It's almost across the board. Even if people start out good, they find that in order to play the game, they have to go along. A lot of times people who go into politics, and again, I'm not saying that it's across the board, and I think that this is something that has to change and is already changing. Is one of the things that's happening in the US on a local level is a lot more newcomers. Non-political people are running for office, not because they want the power, because they're tired of being booted around, kicked around, and abused and lied to. So they're just going to run for office on the local level, and that is going to translate and seep up very quickly into the federal level and the global level. So if you consider yourself to be disinterested in politics, but you're sick and tired of being kicked around and having humanity kicked around, consider running for whatever office you might be a fit for in your local area. Even if it's a school board where the young people are being educated and to be the future generation, every one of these roles is massively important. It's time for leadership to be bottom up, not just hierarchical and top down. Anyway, that's the name of the game, where we are the players, we are the pieces on the board. The board is, starting, let's say, with the snake in the garden and going to Nimrod, who was a conqueror. The Torah says he was the first to rebel against God and to turn to people, to use people for their detriment and his advancement. So that's the game, that's the board, and the purpose, how you win the game, is to take over pieces of the board by revealing the divine within you and therefore being partners in the co-creative process with God, with the creator. So it's a supernatural way to win, and it is actually real, and it does actually work. And that's why, if you don't know about it yet, or you're not part of it yet, you should go to prayerconvoy.com and sign up for the free calls and for instructions on how to form a prayer pod of your own and for help. Miracles are happening. And it's not just the miracles that are happening for each of us, because each of us is getting prayed for and praying for our friends or our new friends, but because we're uniting in this way, turning toward each other and recognizing the common heart in each of us and the one God, the one source that loves us, that is ready now to reveal that love more than any time ever before. There's a switch. A switch is happening. There's a turnaround and what's possible. And through the prayer pods and through getting together with each other, each of us in our own, with our own pod, and then each pod connecting together through the calls and the Telegram group and just our common intention, we're creating a convoy of unity and divinity that makes each person a core part of the solution, truly a key to the turnaround, to the revelation of a divine world. And that's really what's happening now. So it was very interesting that we're in the month of Adar again. This is the 21st of Adar Rishon. There's the first month of Adar. So if you know this, bear with me. If you don't know this, it's fascinating, because every 2 or 3 years in the Hebrew calendar, there's an extra month. It's not like the leap year in the lunar calendar in the solar calendar, where February every 4 years has an extra day. That's not this year. But in the lunar calendar, because there's a much bigger gap between 12 lunar months and 12 solar months, so every 2 or 3 years, we have to have an extra entire month in order to realign the solar and the lunar calendars. So the lunar is falling back. And then it's getting later in the solar year when things happen, and then this extra month, or it's going forward, it's being pushed forward, whatever it is, it syncs it up, it gives us some edge, and then we go back into the pattern. So that extra month is always the same month. So one of the months is doubled. It's not a special month. It's not a different month with a different name. It's the same as 1 month out of the 12 lunar months that has been chosen by God to be the leap month. And that is the month of Adar, which we're in. So this year there are 2 months of Adar, which, as I've said before, quoting the Rebbe, 2 months of Adar equals 60 days, 60 days of joy, the Rebbe says. Adar is a month of joy and transformation, specifically through joy. So you should, if you're not yet, get on the train, get in the convoy, not only to pray, but to do everything possible to make people around you happy and to make yourself happy and to just allow for happiness and joy, because joy breaks all the barriers, especially when it's done in connection with other people. It's not self-sacrifice joy. It's a loving, happy celebration, celebratory joy. So anyway, through the 60 days of Adar, through joy specifically, the Rebbe said many times, we can transform and will transform everything that is undesirable into desirable form. Now, here's the thing. We're syncing up with the solar calendar, with the game board, where there still are dark agendas that appear to be running the show. What's happening in Canada? Literally, they threatened, I read, to kill the pets of people who support the protests, the convoy, people dancing in the streets and, sitting in their trucks, peaceful protest. It's part of the apparently Charter of Canadian Freedoms. It's supposed to be celebrated, the ability to peacefully protest. And yet, they're invoking shades of Nazi Germany without a doubt. And if I get censored, so be it. At this point, who cares? Anyway, we need to know this. We need to see this. And yet, what's really happening? So it might be scary for people. People might be trying to sleep through it. Some people might still be trying to justify it. There is no justification for killing people's pets because they have an opinion you don't want to hear. There isn't. And if you think there is, get with the program. You have a problem. Really. You're part of the problem, not the solution. I'm assuming that's not anyone here, but if I'm wrong, seriously, get over it. It's time. It's not okay. Anyway, whether there are infiltrators from the white hats or infiltrators from the black hats or whatever in those thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of trucks and millions of people. Of course there are. Everything gets infiltrated, but that doesn't change the fact that humanity is rising and the powers of the other side are suppressing every way in every way they can. Now here's some things that I'm hearing, and I'm not saying it's not a big deal. The Canadian Parliament passed the emergency laws, I think yesterday. There was a majority of the elected officials that actually passed laws that say that the government can do whatever they want to the people for any reason or no reason. Is that okay with you? And it's not even for the COVID, it's for protests, lest there might be future protests. So again, we have to wake up and smell the sewage. And that's the purpose of all of this. And that's where I want to bring in, there can be so much joy here. Here's what's also happening. It's impossible. I told one of my closest relatives today that, who commented on the war in Russia and Ukraine. I'm like, I don't take anything at face value anymore. I have no idea what's going on. One thing I know for sure, it's not what it looks like. Another thing I know for sure, it's all being run by God. Another thing I know for sure is it's happening on behalf of the awakening of humanity and the birth process to a new world, which is right here, right now, ready to be revealed. And all that it takes is for us to notice and make a little shift. At that point, all the evil goes away. Was that the case last year, the year before, a generation ago, 2 generations ago? No. We went through a long, long, horrific time that the Torah describes, that God describes as Haster Astapanim. God says, I'm going to hide my face from you. I'm going to hide my face from you. I'm not going to hear your prayers. And it was horrendous, and it wired in so much trauma for all of us, collectively and individually. But it's over. It's over. And we need to be able to, not that we don't have work to do and, things to hash out with God, hash it out. Tell him it's not okay. I'm not okay. You hurt me. You hurt me. How do I know you're not going to keep hurting? Be real. It's a relationship. But at the same time, until you're willing to forgive the past, your own, a person in your life, something that happened, or even with God, you're not going to be open to something new. And something new is right here. And it's waiting to be revealed. And who reveals it? Only you, only me. There's nobody else. We are the revealers or the concealers of reality. And so one of the things that's happening, and I've seen films of this, is that, and I've heard reports of it from people who actually live, I have a child living in Canada also. Anyway, one of the things that's happening a lot of the time is that there are cameras out recording arrests in Ottawa. And then the reports are that in most cases, they're putting the people in vans in handcuffs, we've seen pictures of them kneeling on the ground. Really? Putting them in vans, driving them 20 minutes away and releasing them into the wild. What is that? So what is this about? And this is about generating fear, because when you're in fear, you are not able to be yourself. When you're not able to be yourself, you're not able to connect your authentic power, your soul power, your source, each other, what's really happening. And then you're out off the board. They're taking out the pieces that way. We can't let them. We're not meant to let them. And so here's the deal. You don't have to get in a truck if you don't have a truck, or if you don't want to. You don't have to go to a protest if you don't want to. What you have to do is be part of the solution. You have to see what's going on. You have to understand not just what's it looks like in the media, but what is emerging. So here's a visual for you. Imagine when a new light is emerging from under the surface, and that is literally what's happening. And imagine it literally coming up from under the ground like a force, like, trembling and pushing up. So what's happening as it comes up, this light, the dirt that covered it up is crumbling, is kind of flying up in the air, pieces of rock are, flying here and there. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing what was always there. What we're seeing now, it's not that it wasn't there. How is it that the whole world went into totalitarian at the same time? How is it that the whole crisis happened everywhere simultaneously, pretty much? How is all of this happening? And it's because it was always there. It just was hidden. And that's how it got us, by hiding from us, by manipulating us, by pretending to be our best friend. It's not doing that anymore. They are not doing that anymore. Okay? And the fact that they're not doing that anymore does scare people at first glance sometimes, but it shouldn't. It should cause you to step up and say, I'm not doing this anymore. You need to leave. You just need to leave. If I elected you and you're voting for tyranny over me, there's the door. I'm running for office. I'm not participating. I'm saying no. I'm telling my friends what I see and how I see it. It can be as small as that. I'm turning to a group of people so that we can pray for each other as part of this convoy. We have our own convoy. We're partners with God. And God intends for the evil to be revealed and to dissolve so that the light that's emerging already in giant blasts will be the order of the day. And that is what's happening right now. And I have heard from a variety of influencers that I've come to kind of trust and never trust anybody 100% in that realm, but who have pretty good track records over time, that this day and in general, this month and next month are very powerful and many things are happening, arrests behind the scenes, change perhaps in the entire global monetary system in a good way, not in a bad way, not in an exploited way. And that 2022 is a special day where something big is supposed to happen, which may or may not be revealed on this day. And I don't know 100% if it's true, but it's not an accident that the numbers line up like this. I haven't spent a lot of time analyzing it, but I do believe that 0 equals ayin, which is ayin, it means nothing. But in the Torah context, ayin is the state of nothingness, divine potential that underlies, precedes, and is the source, the generative source of everything that exists in the universe. So ayin is God creating, you could say, or God's light ready to create. That's 0. And what's 2? Let's say it's our relationship between us and ourselves, us and each other, and us and God. So it's up. The first number. How come we write the month 02? Because 2 is preceded by 0. Because separateness, yesh, creation, is preceded, and not only preceded by in time, but preceded by in form, like it's the inner form or the inner formless energy of the multiplicity, the diversity, the separateness that exists as a feature of creation. So we want to weave in the ayin. Very, very interesting that in the month of Adar, the evil enemy of the Jewish people in the Purim story, which I've heard a lot of people talk about, not just from a Jewish context, although it's a story of the Jewish people. But we're in a Purim story right now, and a lot of people realize it from all backgrounds. So in this Purim story, the evil Haman, who came from the tribe of Amalek, which that tribe did everything they could to wipe out and distract and destroy the souls of Israel right after they left Egypt. In the beginning of the story, basically, they went after the weak ones, those who were already stumbling. They instill in a spiritual level, they instill doubt and separateness. So Haman is from the descendants of Amalek. He's from, and he represents, the Haman in the Purim story represents this energy of anti-God and anti those who fight for God or who receive from God or who are loyal to God or who believe in God's agenda and want to be part of it, who want to create a divine world. Amalek is out there trying to stop it from happening. Amalek is running the institutions right now. If you're Ashkenazi, it's Amalek. But now that I've lived in Israel for a while, I know it's Amalek also. Anyway, so that's the evil Haman in the story. And what happened when he was about to, he got the ear of the king, and he and the king, who was foolish and also pretty wicked, collaborated to allow for the destruction of all of the Jews. And for a solid year, they were in impending doom. And they turned to God. And the whole thing turned around. So like this, the whole thing is turning around. And we don't see it yet because you don't see it unless you're really looking. Actually, if you're really looking, you can see so much. Like, as I said, the fact that some people are being arrested and transported 20 minutes away and released. All kinds of other things. You can see all kinds of things that are actually happening that aren't being reported in the mainstream. There's a whole show going on, a whole movie going on for us. And the producers are not only good people and they're not only bad people. Both are playing their role. Remember, we're on a game. We're pieces in the game board. But here's the deal. We're pieces that carry God in us. So we don't get to just be moved around by anybody. We get to choose to be players in the game. We get to choose where we want to go and which side we want to play for. We don't have to be a pawn. We can be a queen, each of us. And that only happens as we are awakened. So the month of Adar The 60 days of joy that transforms all negativity. When Haman wanted to destroy the Jews, he cast lots and he was very wise in astrology, and he went through each of the lunar months, and each of the months he saw had a mazel. Of what is a mazel? We hear the word mazel tov, which is usually translated like good luck, but actually a mazel means the spiritual source of something, a person, a month, a time, a holiday, a place, and that spiritual source, nozel, it drips. That spiritual energy from the source drips down into the physical world. How is it dripping a lot? Like, is it? I mean, it's dripping just a few drops. Then you're stuck on the surface. You're out of touch with your spiritual source. But if it's dripping a lot, if it's flowing, then the mazel is tov. The mazel is good. So he saw that in each, he wanted to see if it's an auspicious time to wipe out the Jewish people, what month is most auspicious. And he went through each of the months and he saw that each of the months, the souls of Israel had a mazel. They had some spiritual source protecting them. Then he came to the month of Adar. And in the month of Adar, he saw that there was no mazel. There was no mazel. And the expression used is Ein Mazel Yisrael. Ein Mazel Yisrael, which means there is no mazel for Israel. But Ein in Hebrew, the letters of Ein can be read legitimately ayin. It's the same word, which is this nothingness that I'm telling you about. So what is the mazel of Israel? Ayin. It's infinite divine potential that's bringing creation into being at every instant from absolute infinity and divine desire, which means that throughout this is one of the reasons why the month of Adar, which is now doubled, 2 months of Adar, and in Torah, when something's doubled, it means doubled, redoubled, redoubled. It means infinity. So there's infinite potential throughout the 60 days of Adar. When the 21st day of the first month, it will work retroactively too. So start now, that the 60 days of Adar, to access the mazel of ayin through joy and happiness, making other people joyful, through seeing the light that's emerging and not getting hyper focused on or staying scared and triggered by the dirt and the detritus that's being, stirred up. That's just, the darkness was there. The evil was there. It's now emerging to be seen for what it is and blown away. That's all that's happening here. Now, I'm not saying that it's always easy, but we are invoking the supernatural to make it infinitely easier and better than it otherwise could be or would have been. And that's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing with the prayer convoy. That's what we're doing with Phoenix Unleashed. That's what we're doing in general. So the 60 days of Adar, the mazel of ayin, gives you the power when you connect, especially through joy and happiness in this month, with that power to turn everything around. And I think that that's what 02222022 is also here to do. I think it's a kind of, whether it's by design, because it sounds cool, or whether it's, by cosmic divine design, I think that I did a matrix today for my private students, and I felt a kind of light that I haven't felt before, at least at this level. Something is massively happening. And because you're being used as a piece on the board by either this side or that side, when you're unconscious, it's going to be that side, the snake side. The more conscious you are, the more you're a partner with God, and then it's this side. And guess what? When God gets his pieces in line, it doesn't take but a minute for everything to change for the good. We're anyway entering a world of supernatural divine love. We're entering the world of redemption, of Geula. This is the reason for which the world was created, the very reason for which the world was created. But why has it been this bad? I can't really answer that question, why it has to be this bad. I'm not going to even try. But why did it have to be troubling? Why did we have to have separation too? Why? So that we could exist. If the infinite divine light was fully revealed, there would be space for nothing else. There would only be God. There would be no you and no me and no anything. So in order for us to exist, to be pieces in the game, for there to be game at all, there had to be this vast cosmic concealment that is the source of every problem that we've ever had, accelerated by the snake in the garden. But the end game is that we take all of that and we successively reveal our divinity from within. The purpose of all challenges and obstacles is to reveal the supernatural part of powers of the soul, the miraculous powers of the soul. And that's also available now. And the more you allow your triggers, anything you see and hear, to turn you within into prayer, and to ask yourself the question, what could be the miraculous trust, or the miraculous light, or the miraculous praying, or the miraculous happiness that I can right now activate for myself or someone else. Bring someone a plate of lasagna when they had a busy day. See what that does. That's a superpower because you're playing your piece for one of the players in the game. It's really God against the snake. It's really all God. There's only one. But God set up the game this way, and he gave free choice and consciousness to the pieces in the game. Not a whole lot of consciousness. Most of the consciousness is hidden outside of the brain, but it's coming online. And the Torah activates that big time. And prayer and meditation can activate that big time as well. So the invitation here is joy and celebration, transformation, to understand what's really happening, to understand that the whole game, this battle was won before it began, to understand that most of the suffering can be behind us if we wake ourselves up now, to understand that the more that we let go of needing to see how things are going to work out and just trust that they will and become part of the solution. If you're not in a prayer pod, get yourself into a prayer pod. How do you do that? Join prayerconvoy.com and read the instructions there. Join the Telegram and we'll tell you exactly how it will help you. Okay. And you'll find that you're starting to be surrounded by people who get you, love you, pray for you, and you'll see miracles in your life and you'll generate the same for them. And you're connected with many, many, many others who are doing the same. And that's just growing by the day. That's part of the solution. Think of someone in your life, a child, a sibling, a friend, an employer, an employee, a spouse, and ask yourself, what's something I could do to make that person happy? What would I want that? What if I were them? What would I wish somebody would do for me? And then just do it. And you can also ask yourself, what would make me happy right now? And as long as it's not destructive, just do it. Go for it. The more happiness, want buckets full and oceans full of happiness generated in Adar, because that is the way that we transform the darkness to light. That is the way that we bring down the mazel in such a way that it uplifts everything forever. It's not over when Adar is over. This is the time of the transformation. The next month after the second Adar is Nisan. Nisan is the month whose name means miracles. Nisan is the month, the Torah tells us, of redemption. It was the month of redemption in the Passover story, and it's meant to be the month of redemption in the future. Is it going to be this Nisan? I think that depends on you and me. We're right there. We're right there. The world is poised at the edge of a cliff. And all we have to do is say, time to fly. And you will fly. And whatever's not meant to be here will fall. But it is up to you, because the connector between heaven and earth is every human being. Can't happen without you. Okay, that's what I have to say today. Happy Adar, and I will talk to you soon. www.prayerconvoy.com. By the way, if you'd like to be part of my inner circle, I always forget to say this. No, first of all, if you want more people to see this, please share it, please like it, please comment. That makes a big, big difference. If you'd like to be part of my inner circle, either the School for Spiritual Empowerment or the Influencers Program, where you get all the mentoring, community, purpose, activation, high frequency power, divine power that you need for an entire year to truly make your dreams come true and transform your life. You can find out more about that at gateofunity.com. So I'll see you next week, same time, same place, maybe a new world. Take care.